Back before the popularity of League of Legends, MOBA games weren't really all that much of a thing. Sure, they existed, but there wasn't nearly as much demand for a game like League of Legends as there is today. A lot of people's love for this genre of game started with League, but for me, this predates League by many, many years, and I want to take you back in time to the game that captured my heart for this genre, and the game that could have been League of Legends. Now, you probably already think that I'm talking about Dota All-Stars or Dota 2, but whilst I have had a lot of game time in both of those games, although not nearly as much as League of Legends, this isn't the game that I'm going to be talking about today. As much as I used to love going to gaming cafes with my friends and setting up Dota All-Stars lobbies and getting my ass kicked by 14-year-olds, despite the fact that none of us really knew what the hell it was we were doing, I still enjoyed the game, and even after all of my friends moved on to other things, to Call of Duty, to Counter-Strike, I still found myself fixated with Warcraft 3, doing custom scenarios, playing Naruto MOBA maps where you could play as Kakashi and slap Sephiroth from Final Fantasy around for some reason. It was terrible, but it was also so great. But there was this bit of a gap. Dota began to age, it looked pretty terrible, the mechanics were still as clunky as ever, but with technology advancing, something had to change. Dota 2 wouldn't even be remotely on the horizon at this point, and it was 2009, and I needed some MOBAs in my life. And so enters the game that I want to speak about today, Heroes of Newerth, a game that I spent many hours playing during the closed beta, a closed beta that I had to spend like 40 to 50 bucks just to get into. Now, as a 15-year-old, you can probably imagine how long that kind of money took to amass. Even with a paper route and $5 a week from my parents, it was still an investment into a game that back then, I mean, you didn't really have all that many beta tests that were open to the public. Early access wasn't a thing. Betas weren't a promotional stunt. It was a long process that took many months of testing, but dear God, did this game blow my mind. Heroes of Newerth was absolutely everything that I had been looking for in a video game. I took a risk with my allowance and my part-time job earnings, and I dove off a bridge with it hoping that maybe I'd sprout wings, but I ended up finding a new love for a game genre that, despite being far too hardcore for any of my friends to play with me on, just playing alone was enough for me. Everything about it. It had tons and tons of cool characters that were pretty similar to Dota All-Stars, so they were kind of familiar. It had graphics that, when compared to the Warcraft 3 engine, looked beyond incredible to me at the time. Gameplay that felt tightened and satisfying to play, and what was most important to me though, was the cast of characters that I could experience all for the first time. Now for me, I envy new players to League of Legends, not for the gameplay or for the community experience or for playing with their friends, but just something about having 150 characters thrown at you and you getting to experience each one, see how cool they are, and have that oh damn moment every single time you see one in game and you wonder what they do. It's something that I'm not really gonna feel again. I know every single champion in League of Legends, I know exactly what they all do. And it's the same with Dota 2 and Heroes of Newerth. A lot of the characters are very similar. I mean, even when I started playing League of Legends, I mean, here's Shipper. This is a character from Heroes of Newerth, and he probably looks very similar to someone you already know from League. That's right, a lot of his abilities are pretty much exactly the same as Rumble, and Rumble wasn't released until at least a year after the Chipper. I mean, it's kind of obvious that a lot of these games are kind of reusing mechanics from Dota All-Stars and from other games, but I really wish I could feel that awe of something unique and brand new characters again. I felt like a cool character design, something unique, something cool. It was the best part of learning one of these games. It wasn't necessarily about mastering the mechanics, but just finding something you really like aesthetic-wise and just seeing if it gels with you. The player base was never massive. Even during the closed beta, I don't think I ever saw more than 40 to 50,000 players online at one time, but my god, it was still alive and it was exciting. It was really poised to do well and introduce players to that kind of Dota experience that would hook people, since getting into games of Dota All-Stars on Warcraft 3 was kind of sketchy, sometimes having to download third-party clients like Garena to get into games. These days though, this is me today, as this video is being posted, trying to get into a game of Heroes of Newerth. This is how many lobbies there are. Like 3. You know, I really vividly remember my best friend in high school telling me about League of Legends, because he knew how much I loved Heroes of Newerth at the time. So we went home, We downloaded it one night, which took a long time because our internet was terrible, and we played one game of Twisted Tree Line. I played Vagar, and I thought the game looked terrible. I seriously thought that it was just like baby graphics. It was way too cartoony to be taken seriously compared to my hardcore, cool-looking Heroes of Newerth experience. And as it turned out, though, this was quite part of the reason that Heroes of Newerth would begin to decline. This is a story of two games, both in closed beta at the exact same times, but one would go on to become the biggest video game in the entire world, and one would fizzle into irrelevance to the point where most of you guys have never even heard of it. But why did this happen, though? See, Heroes of Newerth had an entry point that was kind of steep. PC gaming wasn't half of what it is today in terms of people willing to invest £30 on a game that isn't even out yet. A new generation of players that had flocked to PC from console because of revolutionary storefronts like Steam had never really experienced a MOBA game like League or Dota or HON before, and they certainly were not going to pay $40 to $50 to be a guinea pig for it. And then, in 2009, League of Legends was released.
There, that was one turn dead, second turn dead.
Oh
Fnatic going to win the Season 1 championship if they can hold on. This Nexus will go down. Congratulations to Fnatic winning the Season 1.
There is really no better comparison that you can make about these two games than PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds and Fortnite. As with MOBA games back then, Battle Royale as a genre is kind of an emerging market, and the only thing holding people back from really getting into it is the self-admitted learning curve and the price point. So PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds, similar to Heroes of Newerth, was doing absolutely fine until along came a competitor. Free, simpler mechanics, and a more accessible vibe to the game. So I don't know if you've played a MOBA that isn't League before, but Dota 2 is hard as hell. Turning speeds, denying towers and minions, last hitting being absolutely critical if you want to do anything in the game. A lot more active items, a lot more very, very overpowered active items that you very much need to learn everything about. Losing money on death. There is a lot to these games. And League of Legends removed all of these barriers to entry, and in the process, washed a lot of the competition away. HON numbers dropped, and it wouldn't be until 2011 when Heroes of Newerth would go free to play in an effort to bring back the faltering numbers that had left them. But one of the biggest nails in the coffin would be coming in 2013 with the release of Dota 2. Now, Heroes of Newerth had a massive community off of the back of Defense of the Ancients. These are people who were sick of the effort that was required to get a game of Dota. These are people that wanted a little bit of updated graphics and some tweaks here and there, and you know, for many years, they were crying out for a new MOBA experience, and Heroes of Newerth was the perfect fit. Most of the characters were basically just skin changes of other characters that were already in Dota All-Stars. You can clearly see the similarities on some of these without even really knowing either game. And of course, these are all just Warcraft models, so it's people copying people, you know? Now, even after League of Legends was released, the HON community still held a bit of numbers, but they were mostly players who were interested in that more hardcore experience, only staying with Heroes of Newerth because of the depth of the gameplay compared to League of Legends. But when Dota 2 was released, suddenly all of those players had all of the old champions that they had grown to love from playing Dota All-Stars, all the ones they were used to, and now with a beautiful new fresh lick of paint. Heroes of Newerth had tidied them over, but because the game completely failed to find a unique identity, and instead chose to ride on the coattails of another game, it was kind of inevitable that with casual players flocking to League of Legends, and with the hardcore crowd and people that used to play Dota All-Stars on the Warcraft 3 engine now heading to Dota 2, there was neither the accessibility of League or the identity of Dota 2 left to grasp onto. And it's sad, because that game really did come through for me, even if I was just a guinea pig for them for a year, but that was all it did. It came through for me until I was ready to move on to another game. It was just a pit stop along the road until I found League of Legends, a game that I've now played for probably over 8 years at this point. But Heroes of Newerth had no real sticking power or an identity to call its own. The developers really did come through with the skins on this game though, despite the fact that the game really isn't popular anymore. A lot of the flashy stuff for it, the announcers, the skins that you can get are incredibly fun and cool and possibly copyright infringing, despite the graphics kind of looking a bit terrible, but still, I'm wondering how long at this point this game has left. It was changed hands in 2015 to Frostburn Studios from Savage. And it makes me sad because most people I talk to about this game or about MOBA games have never even ever heard about it, never mind cared about it. And I don't know about you, but I often think about how my life could be if I took a left instead of a right. And it's interesting to think that if there were changes made in development of this game and some smart thinking on the part of the devs, that we could all have been playing this today instead of League of Legends. But I'm not trying to get you to play this game. I mean, it plays terribly and it looks terribly now. But I just want to share a little piece of my past that was the seed that planted this channel. A game that, if it didn't exist, this channel probably wouldn't either. And I hope that it survives as long as it can, but I won't be surprised to see it go. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you later.